For many years, Chisum and Okoro had managed to hide their daughter, Nkiru, from the eyes of the village. They loved her deeply, but fear ruled their choices. They worried that Umuoka, a land where tradition weighed heavily on every soul, would never accept someone who looked different. And to protect their child from the whispers and cruel judgments of the villagers, they kept her hidden inside their hut, away from the prying eyes of the world. But secrets in a Umuoka village never stay buried forever.
To understand this moment, we must travel back to the very beginning, to when Nkiru was born in Umuoka village.
On a night when the moon hung low and restless winds swept through the thatched roofs of Umuoka village, the cries of a newborn pierced the silence. Inside a mud-walled hut, sweat rolled down Chisum's face as labor gripped her body. Outside, her husband Okoro paced like a restless lion, his hands clenched behind his back, waiting for the sound of life. At last it came. A sharp wail, small but strong, split the air. Relief swept through the hut, but only for a moment. The midwives froze. One dropped the cloth she was holding. Another staggered back, her eyes wide, her lips parting in shock. They whispered among themselves, struggling to understand what they had seen. "What is it?" Chisum gasped, her breath weak, her hands reaching out. "Why are you silent? Is my baby alive?" Alive, yes, but not ordinary. The newborn lay on the mat, her tiny body trembling, her face red from the effort of breathing. But beneath her waist lay something no one in the hut had ever seen before. 4 small legs, 2 tucked beside the others, as though she carried a hidden story written upon her body. The eldest midwife crossed herself, her voice trembling. "The spirits have spoken. This child carries a mystery." The others exchanged nervous glances, whispering of omens and hidden meanings. One suggested hiding the child before the village could see, fearing what people might say. But Chisum, still weak from labor, pushed herself up with trembling arms. Her eyes, heavy with exhaustion, burned with fire. "Give me my child," she commanded. The midwives hesitated. "Give me my child." Reluctantly, they placed the baby in her arms, and in that moment, as Chisum gazed at her daughter, tears spilled down her cheeks, not of fear, but of fierce, unshakable love. She kissed her child's forehead and whispered, "Nkiru, the best is yet to come. You are mine, and you will live." Outside, Okoro called anxiously, "Is it a boy or girl? Tell me, is my wife safe?" The midwives exchanged uncertain glances, unsure how to answer. But Chisum clutched her child tighter, rocking her gently as if daring anyone to take her away. For many years, Chisum and Okoro had managed to hide their daughter, Nkiru, from the eyes of the village. They loved her deeply, but fear ruled their choices. They worried that Umuoka, a land where tradition weighed heavily on every soul, would never accept someone who looked different. And to protect their child from the whispers and cruel judgments of the villagers, they kept her hidden inside their hut, away from the prying eyes of the world. But secrets in a Umuoka village never stay buried forever. However, Nkiru grew into a young woman. Her strength, intelligence, and radiant spirit could no longer be contained by 4 walls. One fateful evening, whispers spread like wildfire. Someone had seen Nkiru by the river. When word spread that Chisum's daughter had lived in secrecy all these years, the village square filled with restless voices. Some whispered in fear, calling her an omen. Others, curious, wondered if her uniqueness carried a hidden blessing. The day finally came when the elders of the land discovered the truth, that a girl long hidden had reached adulthood carrying a mystery the village could not ignore. The elders gathered to decide what this meant for their people now that the truth had come to light. Gathered beneath the great Iroko tree, the elders debated fiercely. Some declared her a sign of the gods, others called her an omen that must not remain hidden. The weight of judgment pressed on Chisom and Okoro as they were summoned before the council. For the first time, Nkiru's name was spoken openly in Umuoka, not in her parents' hut, not in secret, but in the hearing of all. Nkiru, though uncertain, stood tall before them. She was no longer a child to be pitied, but a young woman whose destiny demanded to be faced. The whispers grew louder, and the entire village waited. What fate would befall the girl who had lived in shadows? The council's decision echoed across the village. Nkiru must be brought before the people. When Chisom heard this, her heart trembled. She had prayed for years that her daughter would never face the cruelty of men's tongues. But the elders had spoken, and in Umuoka, no family defied the elders without consequence. That night, Nkiru sat quietly in the shadows of her parents' hut. She was no longer a child. Her eyes carried the depth of someone who had lived years unseen, listening to the world from behind walls. "Mother," she whispered, "I have hidden long enough. If the village wishes to see me, then let them. I was not made to live in shadows." Her words stunned Chisom. Strength radiated from the very one she feared would be too fragile to face the world. The next morning, as the sun rose over Umuoka, the villagers gathered in the square. Whispers filled the air, hearts pounded, and all eyes turned to the narrow path where Chisom and Okoro walked slowly, with Nkiru between them, no longer hidden, but stepping into the gaze of her people. The fate of her life and the honor of her family hung in the balance. A ripple spread through the crowd as Nkiru appeared in the village square. She had been spoken of only in whispers, hidden from sight, yet now she stood in the open, her presence commanding every gaze. An elder leaned forward, his tone heavy. "This is no ordinary matter. Her difference will stir questions across the land. If we are careless, it may bring unrest." Another added quickly, "How can such a future be carried without challenge?" The people shifted uneasily. Some mothers drew their children closer, while others stared with a mix of awe and uncertainty. Then Elder Mama Ozo, the oldest voice in Umuoka, lifted her staff and struck the ground. The sound echoed like thunder, silencing the square. "Enough," she said, her voice weathered yet unyielding. "You speak of fear, but do you not know? The ways of destiny are never simple. Who are we to decide the path of one who has only just stepped into the light? Did we give her life? Did we shape her soul? No. Then let her walk her journey and let the truth reveal itself." Some murmured their doubts, but none dared challenge her gaze. Chisom's heart swelled with relief. She leaned close to her daughter and whispered, "You see, Nkiru? Even the wise know you are meant to live." Chief Obieze stroked his beard thoughtfully, then addressed the gathering. "She will not be harmed, nor cast aside, but the council will watch her life closely. If trials come upon us, we will meet again." The decision was cautious, but it gave Nkiru what she had never known: protection. As the crowd dispersed, whispers still lingered like smoke in the air. Some doubted, some feared, But something new had been planted in Umuoka that day. The possibility that Nkiru's life carried a meaning greater than anyone yet understood. For the first time, she had faced the judgment of her people. And though the road ahead was uncertain, her story had truly begun. In the days that followed, Nkiru longed for belonging. She wished to walk freely through the marketplace without whispers at her back, to join the women at the stream without stares, to be seen not as unusual, but simply as herself. Yet, beneath her longing, something stronger was taking root, a quiet flame her mother had lit with words of courage. Nkiru began to notice that while her body was different, her mind was sharp. She could count market goods faster than most traders, and when she spoke, her voice carried a weight far beyond her years of silence. The world may have given her 4 legs, but destiny was giving her something greater, resilience. And as she walked through the village paths, so did the whispers. Some pitied her, some feared her, but none could ignore her. It was during this time that the event happened, the one that began to shift the village's view. One hot afternoon, the daughter of Mama Kamsi, a respected trader in Umuoka, collapsed under the weight of her basket. Her skin burned with fever, her lips trembled, and sweat poured down her face. Panic spread quickly. Children scattered, women cried out, and men muttered in alarm. Mama Kamsi wailed, cradling her daughter in her arms. "She is burning! What shall I do?" Nkiru, who had been sitting quietly by the stream, felt her heart race. Something stirred within her, not fear, but a strong and urgent pull. Without hesitation, she stepped forward. The villagers gasped at the sight of her approaching. "Stay back, Nkiru," someone warned. "This is not your place." But Mama Kamsi, desperate and blinded by worry, did not turn her away. Tears ran down her face as she held her child close. Nkiru knelt beside the girl, her legs folding beneath her. She placed her hands gently on the child's burning forehead. Closing her eyes, she whispered words she had often heard from her mother's nightly prayers, words not of magic, but of hope. Life, stay. Breath, return. Fever, ease. Her voice trembled, but her hands remained steady. She dipped a cloth into the cool stream and laid it softly on the child's head, wiping her face with calm, deliberate strokes. She murmured quiet prayers, rocking slightly as though willing strength into the girl's body. Minutes passed. The crowd stood silent, caught between doubt and wonder. And then it happened. The child's trembling eased, her breathing slowed, the fire in her skin cooled. Slowly, she opened her eyes, weak but alive, and whispered, "Mama." A cry of relief erupted from Mama Kamsi. She fell to her knees, clutching Nkiru's hands. "Bless you, Nkiru, you have helped her." The villagers gasped. Some covered their mouths, others stepped back in awe. They had expected tragedy, but instead they had seen comfort and life return under Nkiru's touch. From that day forward, whispers about Nkiru began to change. She was still the girl with 4 legs, still different in the eyes of many, but now she was something else. The woman who heals, they began to call her. Quietly, more mothers brought their sick children to Chisom's compound. Old men came with aching bones, women with fevers, babies who cried through the night. And Nkiru, with her steady hands and quiet prayers, brought relief more often than not. And though Nkiru was still only beginning her journey as a young woman, she began to understand perhaps she was not set apart for sorrow, but for something greater than the world could yet imagine.
Word of Nkiru's abilities spread quickly beyond Umuoka. First came neighbors, quietly bringing their sick for help. Then strangers walked long distances, guided by whispers of the young woman who heals. Some arrived with children weak from illness, others with injuries that would not heal, and a few with eyes clouded by age. Nkiru met them all with quiet courage. She prayed softly, tended their wounds, and offered gentle care. Time and again, relief followed. It was enough to stir awe and admiration in the hearts of those who witnessed her work. Soon people began to call her a blessing. Women praised her at the market. Men bowed respectfully as she passed. Some even left gifts of yams, palm oil, and fabric at Chisam's doorstep in gratitude. Yet, with recognition came questions. In quiet corners, villagers whispered among themselves, "Who is she that so many find relief from her touch? Her presence is unusual, but remarkable," others said. Even the elders debated quietly, torn between wonder and concern. Losing her would mean losing the help she offered, but keeping her meant navigating the curiosity and skepticism of the village. Okoro and Chisam, her parent, stood steadfastly by her side. They never feared for her place in the world. Whenever questions arose, they defended her with quiet authority. Her father's presence was a shield, letting everyone know that Nkiru had the full support of her family. One evening, after Nkiru helped a boy who had been unable to walk for weeks, the villagers celebrated her carefully, clapping and singing. Not all joined, however. A tall man, Odenigbo, the village's most feared hunter, stepped forward, his expression wary. He said, "This is unusual. She helps many, yet we must be careful with what we do not understand." The music quieted, and the crowd watched. Chisam stepped to Nkiru's side, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. "My daughter, you are not strange. You are a gift. People may not always understand, but your heart is true, and that is what matters." The villagers murmured, torn between curiosity and respect. Odenigbo said no more and retreated into the night, leaving only quiet reflection behind. That night, Nkiru sat by the fire with Chisam, staring into the flames. "Mama," she whispered, "why do some celebrate me while others doubt?" Chisam stroked her hair gently. "People respect what they understand, and sometimes they fear what they do not. That does not define you. Walk your path with courage and let time reveal the truth." Nkiru nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also the strength of her family's unwavering support. She knew that helping others would always come with challenges, but her resolve was firm, and her gift was just beginning to change lives.
But one humid evening, when the air hung heavy over Umawaka, villagers arrived at Chisam's hut, carrying their sick and elderly, hoping Nkiru could help them. Some were weak from long illness. Others struggled to move or eat. Nkiru worked tirelessly, placing her hands gently on those in need, whispering quiet words of prayers, and using the herbal remedies Chisam had taught her. She cooled their foreheads, tended to their wounds, and offered comfort through the night. Despite her efforts, not everyone could recover. Some passed quietly, their journeys ending despite her care. The village, already on edge from fear and hope, began to murmur among themselves. "She is not bringing life like we thought. What if more come to harm?" The elders convened at once, the square filled with the soft glow of torches and the tense chatter of villagers. Chief Obieze, his face grave, addressed the gathering. "Nkiru, you have tried to help many, but some lives have been lost. The people are afraid, and they demand a resolution." Chisam and Okoro stood beside their daughter, their hands tightly holding hers. Nkiru lifted her chin, voice steady despite the fear and grief surrounding her. "I have done all I could. I have given care, comfort, and hope. I cannot control life itself, only offer what I have been given." Mama Ozo, the village's eldest, raised her staff for silence. Courage and kindness cannot be blamed for outcomes beyond control. A heavy silence fell. Chief Obieze spoke with finality. The people are unsettled, and the council must make a decision for the safety of all. For the safety of Umwoka, and until the village can accept her gifts without fear, Nkiru must leave Umwoka village. She will journey beyond the forest. There, she may find her place and fulfill her purpose without bringing worry to our people. Chisam fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. No, my daughter is going nowhere. Okoro's hands clenched in grief, but he held his composure. Chisam, we must obey the council. Before dawn, Nkiru was led to the village gates. A small bundle of food and water was given to her. Children peered from behind their mother's wrappers, and the villagers watched in silence, their eyes wide with uncertainty. Chisam embraced her daughter one last time, whispering through tears, "Do not forget who you are, Nkiru. Your heart is your guide, even in the darkest forest." The gates creaked open, revealing the vast forest beyond. Its trees stretched like silent sentinels, shadows deep and endless. With each step, Nkiru's heart pounded, but she walked forward with resolve, her parents' love carrying her into the unknown. The forest loomed like the mouth of a beast, swallowing Nkiru whole as she stumbled into its depths. The villagers' torches still glimmered faintly behind her, but their light soon faded, leaving only the chorus of crickets and the sigh of the night wind. Each step sank into the damp earth. Every branch groaned like it bore witness to her exile. Hunger struck first. Her stomach gnawed at itself, and her throat ached with thirst. She searched for fruits, but the trees mocked her with their bitter leaves and thorns. When at last she found wild berries, she ate greedily, only to spend the night writhing in pain. Then came the shadows of fear. One night, as the moon silvered the forest floor, Nkiru collapsed beneath an ancient Iroko tree, exhausted and shivering. Darkness pressed on her chest, suffocating her, and she felt as though the forest itself had turned against her. And then, a vision. Her eyes closed, and suddenly she was not in the forest at all. She stood on a vast plain, bathed in silver light. Figures moved around her, glowing softly, their faces kind yet unreadable. A presence, calm and commanding, seemed to radiate from the very air. "Daughter of Whispers," a voice echoed, not from outside, but from within her own mind. "Cast out by men, yet not abandoned by destiny. You are marked, not with misfortune, but with a path. The struggles that test you will forge you. The gift you carry can heal many if you choose strength." Nkiru's lips trembled as she whispered back, Who are you?" The vision shifted, a swirl of light and wind, showing her images of lives she could touch, communities she could save, and obstacles she would face. She understood then, this was not a command nor a threat. It was guidance, a glimpse of what her courage and compassion could achieve. "I am your calling," the voice said gently. "Walk with purpose. Fear may shadow your steps, but it will not define you. Your path is yours alone." When Nkiru opened her eyes, the forest was still. The moonlight glimmered through the branches, and the air no longer felt heavy with menace. Though weak and hungry, her heart was steady. The vision had left a warmth inside her, a certainty that she could face whatever lay ahead. Nkiru rose, brushing off the damp earth, her fear tempered by something new, resolve. The forest had not defeated her. It had shown her what she was capable of, and she would not be broken. The forest that once felt like a prison now became Nkiru's classroom. Every dawn, a vision appeared before her, a radiant figure, cloaked in light, with eyes deep as rivers of fire. It spoke little, but when it did, its words sank deep into her mind, shaping her resolve. "You are not cursed," the vision told her one morning as the mist curled low around the trees. "You are chosen. Your trials are the furnace, your survival is the proof, and your gift is the power you must learn to wield." Through the vision, Nkiru learned about roots that eased fevers, leaves that soothed injuries, and chants that summoned courage. When she laid her hands on a sickly deer and watched it rise to its feet, she trembled, not from fear, but from awe. Her gift was no longer a curse, it was a strength she could embrace. Days blurred into weeks. She grew lean, strong, and steady. Her hands no longer shook when she tended to the forest's creatures. Her heart no longer flinched at memories of rejection. One twilight, as the last red streaks of sun fell across the forest, a man stumbled upon her. He was a hunter from the neighboring village of Amoka, tall, broad-shouldered, carrying a bow, but with eyes softened by kindness. His name was Obi. He had tracked a wounded antelope into the thickets, but instead found Nkiru kneeling beside a stream, her face glowing in the fading light, as though the forest itself paused in her presence. Startled, Obi raised his bow, but when she turned to him, he lowered it at once. Something in her gaze, both fierce and determined, held him fast. "Who are you, wandering here alone?" he asked cautiously. With trembling lips, Nkiru shared her story. She spoke of her birth, the whispers, the rejection, and the day the elders sent her away. Her voice cracked, but she did not break. Obi's chest tightened with compassion. He reached out, holding her hands gently. "No woman should carry such pain," he said quietly. "Your people saw fear, but I see courage. If they turned you away, then let me stand with you." In that moment, Nkiru felt a warmth that rivaled even the vision's light, a human warmth, fragile yet fierce. For the first time, she saw not pity in someone's eyes, but respect and care. The forest had been Nkiru's exile, her crucible, and her rebirth. Now, as she walked beside Obi, the hunter who had found her, a new trial awaited. The trees thinned, and in the distance, smoke curled above rooftops, the signs of a village alive with the rhythm of daily life. Obi's village had always been cautious about outsiders. His hand lingered near his bow as they approached. His heart wrestled with both worry and hope. Bringing Nkiru home was not just an act of kindness, it was a risk. Leaving her alone in the forest had been impossible. He could not let her face danger unprotected. "Nkiru," he said quietly at the edge of the path, "once we cross into my village, there's no turning back. Some may see you as I do, a young woman with courage, with healing in her hands. Others may see only the unknown." Nkiru's eyes met his, steady and unflinching. She had survived the scorn of her people, hunger, and the perils of the forest. "Obi," she replied softly, "if they turn me away, I will not falter. But if even one heart accepts me, then my life still has meaning." Obi felt a surge of conviction, not mere pity or mere admiration, but respect and care. She carried her past like a banner, yet refused to be defined by it. As they entered Amoka village, whispers rippled immediately. Women paused at the wells, children peeked from behind their mothers, and men by the blacksmith's hut exchanged wary glances. "Who is she?" one murmured. "She has a mark of mystery upon her," another said. Obi raised his voice. "Her name is Nkiru. She has endured much, but she carries a gift of healing." The village elder, a tall man with a carved Irako staff, stepped forward. His gaze lingered on Nkiru, as though weighing her very presence. "Obi," he said solemnly, "you bring someone unknown into our midst. How can we be sure that this gift will not bring harm?" Silence fell. Nkiru felt the old sting of rejection, but she straightened her shoulders, remembering her mother's lessons and the vision she had received in the forest. "Your strength will be your shield." "I ask for nothing," she said, her voice firm, though her hands trembled slightly. "I seek only to live. But if any among you are in need, let them come. If my touch helps, judge me not by fear, but by truth." The elder's eyes narrowed. Then he struck his staff on the ground. "So be it. Let the trial of her hands and her heart decide her place among us." And so Nkiru's second trial began, not amid the wilds of the forest, but in the hearts of those she had yet to earn the trust of. The true test came when a man, frail and gasping for breath, was brought to her. The village healers and even visiting doctors had said there was little they could do. Obi stood by her side, his hand holding hers firmly, encouraging her to let the world witness the gift that had once made her an outcast. With steady hands, Nkiru prepared the herbs, whispered the words her mother had taught her, and placed her hands gently on the man's chest. For long minutes, silence held the space, broken only by his labored breathing. Then, gradually, his chest rose more freely, his eyes opened, and strength returned to his body. The crowd gasped, many falling to their knees in awe. Word spread quickly. Those who had suffered for years began seeking her out. A woman who had walked with difficulty since childhood now moved steadily. A child plagued by illness slept peacefully for the first time in months. Each act of healing became a story, and soon, songs of gratitude echoed through the village. "This woman is a blessing," the elders declared. "Obi has brought us someone who brings hope and life." The villagers brought gifts of food, cloth, and simple tokens of respect to her home. Where she had once been cast out, now she was celebrated. For the first time in years, Nkiru's heart felt light and free. Obi's love for her grew deeper with each passing day. He publicly held her hand, declaring, "She is my partner, my heart, my pride." And so their bond was recognized and cherished by the whole village. In time, Nkiru and Obi built a family together. 2 strong boys, and a daughter with her mother's gentle eyes. Their laughter filled the compound, bringing joy and warmth to every corner. Nkiru was no longer an outcast of the forest. She was a healer, a guide, and a beloved member of the community. At last, she had found what she had longed for, a place to belong, a people who valued her, and a family that filled her life with love and purpose. The season of peace in Obi's village was long and golden. The people called her Adaeze, the blessing of the forest, for through her care the sick had recovered and hope had returned to the weary. Her children thrived, her husband's love deepened, and for the first time she felt what it meant to truly belong. But life has a way of calling us back to what we once left behind. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low and cast long shadows across the red earth, a messenger arrived at Obi's compound. His clothes were worn from travel, his face marked by fatigue, but his eyes carried urgency that made Adaese's heart tighten. He was from her old village. "Nkiru, I was sent to find you," he said, his voice heavy with concern. "The village suffers. Umuoka's crops are failing, children are ill, and the elders say no remedy comes. Some speak of you, the one they cast aside, as their only hope. The council asks you to return, to help us." The words struck her like a storm. For years she had carried the weight of rejection, the whispers, the fear, the night she was sent away. Now the very people who had once turned their backs were calling for her help. Obi's hand found hers, steady and reassuring. His eyes reflected both worry and trust. "You owe them nothing," he said softly. "They banished you, and it was here you found life, love, and purpose. Stay, Adaese. Stay where you are respected and cherished." Yet deep inside, a quiet resolve stirred, the same inner voice that had guided her through the forest, that had shaped her path. It whispered of responsibility, of the lives she could touch and the difference she could make. That night, sleep eluded her. She gazed at her children, 2 boys breathing softly, her daughter curled like a blossom, and her heart weighed the choice before her. Could she ignore the call of those who had once rejected her? At dawn, the drums of Obi's village beat in rhythm with her thoughts. The messenger waited by the gate, his eyes full of hope. Adaese stood tall. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, ready to meet the challenge and to face the future with courage. Her decision would change not only her life, but the destiny of both villages.
Umawoka and Emuka, Nkiru's village and Obi's village, had never truly come together. They were not at war, but they rarely agreed on anything, and their people seldom intermarried. Obi, sensing her thoughts, placed his hand gently on hers. "You are not alone, Nkiru. Whatever choice you make, we face it together." That morning, the elders of Obi's village gathered. The messenger from Umawoka village stood at the center, his voice steady but urgent. "Our land is suffering, crops fail, illness spreads, and hope is scarce. The people cry out for you, Nkiru. The same hands they once feared, they now plead for." The crowd murmured. Some questioned, why return to those who cast her away? But others, moved by compassion, urged her to see beyond old wounds. Nkiru stood tall, her 3 children clutching her wrapper. She gazed at their faces, innocent, unscarred by the hatred she once endured. In them, she saw the future, not bitterness. With a deep breath, she spoke. "I will go, not to bow to the cruelty of my past, but to show them the truth they once rejected, that hope and courage cannot be buried in fear." Her decision set in motion a journey more challenging than any forest she had crossed. Obi, refusing to let her walk alone, stayed at her side. Behind them, some villagers followed, inspired to witness what they believed was a moment of grace. When they entered Umawoka village, the air was heavy with hardship. The fields lay bare, children struggled with illness, and the elders who had once condemned her sat quietly, weighed down by regret. A hush fell over the square as Nkiru stepped forward. Whispers moved through the crowd. "Is it her? Has she truly returned?" One of the elders, voice trembling, fell to his knees. "We sent you away in fear. Forgive us, Nkiru." Her heart tightened with memories of rejection, but she drew on the lessons of resilience she had learned in the forest and the strength she had gained through love and purpose. Nkiru extended her hands. Calm swept through the village, as if the air itself had listened. One by one, those who were ill found relief. Children laughed again, their spirits brightened, and the land itself seemed to awaken, showing signs of life returning. The people wept, some in joy, others in humility and reflection. From that day, Umawoka and Emuka village began to form a bond. The 2 communities that once stood apart, her birthplace that had rejected her, and the village that had embraced her, found themselves united by her courage and compassion. No longer did they fear those who were born different. Instead, they sought understanding, nurtured potential, and welcomed gifts even when they seemed extraordinary.
The end. Thank you for watching. Please tell us where you're watching from, and don't forget to click on the like and subscribe button. See you in my next one. Stay blessed.